Hi there. Today I thought I would share with you my layoff story, or how I ended up in a completely different role in industry compared to what I had been in traditionally. Why do I share this? Well, if it helps you, if you're going through a layoff or the period post layoff, and if my story helps you, then amazing. If you're someone who is also on the journey to figure out their next chapter in their career, again, if I share what my journey has been like, if it helps you feel supported, then great. The other factor too is if you know someone who's recently been laid off or is in the job search journey or the finding a new chapter for their career life, that hopefully my story helps you be inspired to find new ways to help your friends or your colleagues feel supported, because it's a bit of a journey. So let me share that. Oh, but before we get into this, let me introduce myself. My name is Tara Patton. I'm an engineer by background, but now I'm a team effectiveness consultant using Ray Dalio's principles, and I'm also a personal success coach. Okay, let's get into this. So before I tell you about my actual layoff event, I got to give you a bit of a precursor, because the layoff event was a bit of a pinnacle in my mental health journey, but it wasn't the only thing that led to some mental health distress. In 2015, the industry that I worked in went onto a bit of a downturn. There was a bunch of layoffs. The companies got cut in half. It was a lot of slash and burn. It's not unheard of in the industry I worked in. It's very up and down. It's the boom or bust cycle that you may have heard of. But it was much more prolonged, I think, than anyone had anticipated. Truthfully, I don't think it came out of that downturn until post-COVID. So 2021, 2022-ish. That's a long stretch. Yeah. So what happened in 2015 after that tranche of layoffs, and then for the subsequent years, it made for a very tense work environment. It didn't necessarily bring out the best in people. My experience and what I noticed was people at work became either passive aggressive as they worked and struggled and played the politics to save their jobs, i.e. they didn't want to get put on a layoff list, or they wanted to shrink and be invisible. If I'm not seen or heard, they'll forget I'm here and I'll just keep my job. So that it just didn't match my personality. It didn't match my work style. I'm much more of a go-getter. Let's get it done. We can tackle this. So that meant I had to shift how I worked and how I came to work. And that's not always great. Now, my last 2 years in corporate life, I worked at a startup. I tell people that my 2 years there were like 5 years anywhere else because of the depth and breadth of experience I got to have. It was incredibly rewarding in that way. I had my team of peers. We were phenomenal together. We complemented each other really well. I still appreciate them and still in contact with a lot of them. I still had field operations staff that I connect well with and wanted to support. So that part was great. The part that wasn't so great was that it was a startup and finances were sketchy. So, the last year or so, especially, it was super tough. Like you worry, like, are we going to make payroll this time? Is it going to be sketch? Are we going to be able to pay our vendors? It was crazy. And we would take turns supporting each other and bolstering each other up as we, kept on a brave face and tried to do the good work. You fast forward to October of 2019, and I was starting to notice some things that I would speak. I'd be in meetings or hallway conversations, and sometimes I'd be like, that was my voice, but that sure wasn't me. That's not something I would normally say. Really acting out of character. I also noticed driving to work in the mornings, I would be fighting tears. And be like, that's probably not a good sign. I Googled, what are the symptoms of depression? Because obviously something is wrong. Maybe it's that. That's totally what it was. When I Googled what are the symptoms of depression, I had 8 out of 10. It was beginning of October. I could do nothing for it or with it. I was so busy and I still was trying to be there for other people that the sacrifice took a toll on me because I wasn't looking after myself very well. Now you fast forward to the actual layoff event, and we're mid-November. I've never been laid off before. It was one of those, we didn't know it was coming. We didn't, I worked at companies where you're like, oh, on May 15th, it's layoff day, and you knew. But when you go into work on that day, go straight to your office and close the door and hope nobody comes and knocks on it. Because if they do, you're getting packaged up. So we walk in, did not know they were going to be doing these layoffs. Half the company in Calgary, or half the staff count in Calgary was laid off that day. I was one of them. Now, having never been through a layoff before and only been part of a layoff round more than one in my career, but never been the one to take the hit, it was traumatic. It was stressful. I remember driving home being a complete puddle. I probably shouldn't have driven myself home, but I did. And, got through that day and just completely numb. And took a few days to really process. Okay, well, now what am I going to do? And what's this going to be? And a couple weeks go by and I can tell all of these things are still bubbling around, right? Oh, did I fail to mention that my layoff happened only a few weeks before my 50th birthday, which means we got to sprinkle a little perimenopausal bullshit dust onto the depression and the traumatic event of layoff. So that was a little extra icing on that bullshit cake. So a couple weeks after the layoff, I'm like, I don't know how to unpack this. I do not know how to come out the other side. I engaged with a therapist because I'm like, I need help. It was super helpful to have a therapist. I highly recommend it. If you are struggling, reach out for help. I worked with her for a few months. The other thing I did at the same time was I started taking classes and courses, some things just for fun, just to use my brain in a different way again, tap maybe into my creative side or do something I haven't done since high school. Some of the other training and courses I did were around your next career move and who are you now? And, some of those introspective skills assessments. What kind of life do you want to lead? That was okay. I also took courses and certifications to, again, explore where my interests are. Oh, wait. And guess what else happened in the mix of all of this? COVID. So that was a whole pile of fun that I was not anticipating. So I'm sure we all remember that. And, that was something I really don't need to experience again in my lifetime. It was a 6 months post layoff. We're still in COVID. I've taken a bunch of other courses, and now it's okay, I would look at job boards and job posting boards and read job descriptions, read up on a company, and without a word of a lie, I would get such a knot and pit in my stomach that I'm almost nauseous at the thought of going back to corporate. I had been so battle scarred from the previous decade of just crazy stuff happening that I decided I can't go back. I can't go back to corporate. I can't do a job description. I can't live in a box that fits some org chart. My career has been so varied. I'm I need to put this to use in a completely different way. So I started Red Blaze Solutions. So that's my company. Now I wasn't quite out of it yet. This isn't a happy ending just yet. I was still struggling with my self-identity, my self-worth. I was still battling hormonal roller coaster and depression, mild depression now, that I say there'd be good days and dark days, right? Where the clouds I couldn't get them to go away. And when I would seek medical help, it was, is this hormones or is this depression or what's going on? And I was doing all the right things. I was exercising, I was eating right, I was taking, some good supplements, trying to because for me, mental health is brain health. So I got to make sure that I'm putting the right components into my body so it helps my brain function. And that helped. It absolutely helped. It wasn't quite solving it though. So it took a couple years, and I want to say it was March 2023, where it started to be very few dark days, much more light days, much more positive and optimistic about the future. I was feeling 1,000 times better about myself and what I can accomplish and my worth and my value to what I offer and bring to the world. Here's the difference though. I've learned that 2 things from my layoff. There's one big thing I've learned. I will not attach my identity to my occupation, because that's a mistake I made. That was a big critical mistake, but it's so normal. You go to a function and you meet someone, you go, oh, what do you do? Right? Not who are you? What lights you up? What's exciting for you these days? Right? What do you do? Where do you work? Right? So it's ingrained in us to attach, our occupation or position or our title to our identity. So there's a cautionary tale for you. If you can find ways to start uncoupling those 2 things, I would highly recommend it. The other thing I've learned is whatever's in an org chart or whatever's in a job description is not my self-worth. That's not all it can do, and it's not all that I can provide. And I won't be put back in that box. I can't be put back in that box. Now, there's like the nuts and bolts of my journey and how I came back out the other side. So if this is you, i.e. post layoff, and now you're looking to figure out what your next chapter is, or you have a friend or a family member who has just been laid off and is now working through job searching or trying to determine what they want for their next career chapter, here's 2 things that I found incredibly helpful. I took courses and LinkedIn classes and found things online that wouldn't necessarily lead me to my next job, but I did it just for interest's sake or to stretch my brain in a new way, because by doing that, I realized actually I am pretty smart. There is stuff I can do. I still have value. I still can learn. I can still dabble in this stuff. So that was a huge confidence builder for me. The other thing I did that was helpful was honored my energy levels. Something I used to do, and I would power through, I would push through, like a former high school athlete. So to me, it was always just grit and persevere and go and get to the finish line, and you don't stop, you don't quit. Well, I couldn't do that anymore, because it would just, if I really pushed, I noticed that those dark days then came a lot more frequently. So I learned to honor my energy levels. So if I woke up one morning and could only get a couple, 3 or 4 hours worth of stuff done, and then I was done. I didn't have it in me. Rather than push through, I would just take a break. I'd leave my home office, go for a walk, or go do something else, or pick up one of my hobbies, or go out for coffee with a friend, that kind of thing. So that's my other piece of advice. Honor your energy levels. The other piece of advice is ask for help. Ask for connections. I think when you're in that layoff period, when you're transitioning for your next career chapter, it is overwhelmingly isolating. It's not like when you were in college or university and you're looking for your next job. Well, so is everybody else. So you're all in the same boat, applying for jobs, going for interviews, living that job search life. But when you're doing it post layoff, it's just you. Your friends aren't going through this. Your family isn't going through this. It's hard for them to understand. And now you're going through it as like a, mid-career adult or latter stage career adult. So ask for help and be specific in how you need to be supported. And it's fair to say, I'm not sure what I need right now. How about we just go for coffee and it's a half an hour? Maybe I need a gym buddy. That would help me make sure I get out and take care of myself so that, I'm staying well-rounded. You could even just have a Zoom call with people, start reaching out. So that's my other big tip is ask for help. Because do not underestimate the mental health toll it can take as you transition. You might find a job right away. It might take you months or a year. So to be able to have those supports in place, knowing what lifts you up versus what drains you, and making sure that you're keeping an eye on what helps you out. So why do I share this whole story with you? One, I don't think we talk about this enough, we talk about the mechanics of a layoff and the processes and procedures you have to go through to find that next position, but we don't seem to talk about the mental health toll, the hit to your self-worth and confidence that it can take. I think we're missing talking about how isolating it is and how, it feels awkward to try to sell yourself again and to be back out there. It's like if you've been married for 25 years and you're suddenly divorced and you're having to go out there and date again. Well, probably feels a little bit like that. So I share this hoping that you feel seen and heard and supported. And in all fairness, I hope it helps you. And again, if you know someone who's going through this, I hope this inspires you to reach out to them and be specific. It's not just, hey, how are you? I was thinking of you. Ask some very specific questions. Not just how are things going? How can I support you right now? What would be super cool to help recharge and bring back some energy into what you're doing, right? Do you need a virtual introduction? How about a coffee? How about we go for a walk? It can be those simple, tiny little reach outs that make a big difference in breaking on the monotony of the day and looking at Indeed and updating your resume and trying to do your networking and that stuff. That would be amazing to help someone out. All right. That's it for me. Again, I hope this helps you. Oh, in case no one's told you lately, you're worthy of your dreams. Don't give up.